Year 10, I've just made this video as a quick reference point for you so that you can come back to it anytime. I'm going to explain to you what your final assessment is for this term. We will go through this in further detail during class, but if you ever have any questions or you need to revisit the requirements of the task, you can always come back and play this video again. So this is a textual analysis and it's going to be an essay, okay? You have 4 weeks notice of the task, so the date handed out, it will be week 5. We're in week 5 at the moment, and your final due date is in week 9, which means that you have 4 weeks notice of the task, okay? 2 other checkpoints that you need to be aware of is that in week 6, you need to have an outline prepared to show me in class, which you'll receive verbal feedback on. And then you also have a draft due in week 7 on Tuesday, okay? And that you will receive written feedback on. So the conditions of this task, everything that you complete for this task should be done in this digital booklet. So nothing needs to be handwritten. You should be doing everything from your outline, brainstorming, all the way to your draft and final copy in this digital booklet. If at any point you can't access it because you're waiting for feedback from me and you want to still keep working on it, you can always make a copy of this document, okay? So your outline, you'll complete it and you'll receive verbal teacher feedback. Drafting won't just be completed in class, it's a take-home formal piece of school assessment, and that means that you also need to be working on this outside of class time as well, okay? Every student will receive written feedback on one draft only. So that means you can't hand in several different versions of your draft, one draft only. And the length is 800 to 1,000 words, and you'll submit this on Google Classroom. Okay? So just to go through the task instructions with you, you know that we have been talking about the global theme of identity and how identity is portrayed in text. And we've also examined the ways in which writers work to communicate a particular purpose to target audiences using authorial choices. So, your instructions for this task, you are to write an analytical essay which compares and contrasts the ways in which two writers showcase the global theme of identity, and the essay needs to examine how the writer utilizes authorial choices to communicate a particular purpose and message to their audiences. In this essay, you need to refer to the following things. So you should be referring to authorial choices. We know that authorial choices are made up of formal and stylistic features. You need to pinpoint what the overall purpose of each text is, who the intended audience or audiences of each text are, and you need to comment on how each text communicates their ideas about identity. So if we go back to your instructions, what that means is that I'm going to show you 3 different texts in a moment that you can choose from. You need to choose 2 texts and you need to compare each text to each other and show me how each writer communicates the idea of identity and also how they use authorial choices to clarify or convey their purpose to the audience. Okay. I'll go through the criteria with you in a moment in a separate video, but these are your text choices. So text A is a poem called Immigrants in Our Own Land by Jimmy Santiago Baca. This is text number 1, so you could choose this text, okay? Text number 2 is a political cartoon, as you can see, called Immigrants Go Back to Where You Came From. And text number 3 is an extract from Born a Crime. And you know that we've studied a little bit of Born a Crime by Trevor Noah in class as well. So you can look through these 3 texts in your own time and make the decision as to which 2 that you will choose. You need to choose 2 texts, not 1 text, and not 3 texts, 2 texts, okay? And you need to be comparing and contrast between each one. So the next part of this assessment, what we'll be doing in class, is very much like our Venn diagram that we've already been doing in groups. You will do your own version of this Venn diagram using this table here. So this is a good place for you just to put dot points in there and start to brainstorm and compare and contrast between your 2 texts, okay? So text 1, I might have chosen Trevor Noah, and text 2, I might have chosen the poem, okay, Immigrants by Jimmy Santiago Baca. So I would need to comment on what are the differences I see. in the way that each author talks about identity. What ideas come through Trevor Noah's extract to do with identity versus what ideas are shown in the poem about identity. If I find any similarities between the two texts in the ways that they talk about identity, I would put them here. And bullet points, guys, is absolutely fine. Okay. The next part of the diagram, still on text 1 and text 2. What is the purpose of text 1? Remember, when we talk about the purpose, we're talking about why has the writer or the cartoonist written or drawn this text? Okay, what's the point of it? What do they want us to do? Is it to persuade us? Is it to engage us? Is it to comment on? Okay, to illustrate to us? So remember, we're always using those doing words. Okay, so text one's purpose versus text two's purpose. And if you find that they both have a similar purpose, pop that in the middle here. Okay, if there's some similarities between the two texts. Okay, guys, target audience. So who is each text aimed at? If they're different, pop them in the separate boxes. If they actually target a similar audience, then you can comment on that in the middle here. And then start to brainstorm some authorial choices that you found that support who you think the target audience or audiences are, what you think the text purpose is, and where you see some ideas about identity. Just start to list them here and bullet point them here so that you've got them to come back to once you start planning your essay outline. Okay? And on your essay outline, on the next page, you'll see that this is the document that you will use and the framework that you'll use to do your essay. Just bullet points or detailed bullet points is all you need. So obviously, don't give me a bullet point with 4 words. Okay? Detailed bullet points for what you're going to include in each section. And this table should pretty much help you decide what you're going to put in your body paragraphs. And we'll go through the structure in class, so not to worry too much about the structure at this stage. Okay? On your outline, I will say yes or no that it's going to work. And if I approve your outline, that is when you go and start to work on your draft below here, and you can type it here. Okay? So this document's very important. Make a copy of it for yourself. And what you want to start doing in your own time, guys, is starting to look at each text, annotate the 2 texts that you decide to look at and use to write about. But annotating is the first step that you want to take. Remember, we read it once for understanding, and then we start to annotate and find authorial choices in the text. Okay? So that is your assessment task for term 3.